Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another episode of Moments of Motivation. I am so excited because we have our second ever guest on the show, the lovely Tashana Thompson. And I have the pleasure of working with her personally, and I just love everything about Tashana. She is such a creative and visual storyteller, and I think she helps to bring life to ideas in ways that you would just never even fathom. Her story is so inspiring, and I hope I'm not putting her out here, but she went from bankruptcy to multiple seven figures in her business. And I think it's just so inspiring. Like her life is inspiring, but she's so down to earth. She's so funny. And yeah, okay, so saying all that, multiple six figures, she's correcting me, but that's okay. Multiple,
Speak it over my life.
yes, yes, but still doing the thing. So I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to jump into our conversation today. Tashana Thompson is a marketing and visibility expert with an impressive track record spanning over 2 decades, primarily focusing on women-led, service-based small businesses and nonprofits. Her mission has always been to empower these women leaders, guiding them to reshape both their professional and personal landscapes. With a solid academic foundation, she boasts a bachelor's in business administration, a dual MBA in marketing and human resources, and an honorary PhD in business and Christian leadership. Through her extensive knowledge and hands-on approach, Tashana provides these women-led entities with strategic tools and insights needed to amplify their influence and bring their visionary organizations to life. Fully understanding the challenges that come with aspiring to greatness without robust support, having faced them herself, Tashana's journey serves as both an inspiration and a testament to her dedication. This commitment to fostering transformative leadership and mentorship gave birth to Beyond Business Solutions, a distinctive marketing agency. Unlike traditional agencies, Beyond Business Solutions, or BBB, operates as an integral extension of its clients' teams, offering personalized strategies that yield impactful results tailored to the unique needs of service-based businesses and nonprofits. With that being said, let's welcome Tashana to the show. Welcome, welcome. Woo!
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you as always.
Oh, yes. Yes. So grateful that you agreed to do this.
Always anything for you.
Oh. So let's jump into it. So tell me, what do you feel like your superpower is?
Ah, um, I feel like it's kind of twofold. Loving on people
Hmm.
and helping them to see a bigger vision for their personal and professional lives than they may be able to see for themselves.
Mm.
So, yeah, and
Yeah.
to do that every
Yes. I
day.
feel that love. I feel that love every time I come around you.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Tell me, like, how did you even get started with your business? Like, what kind of led you to say, you know what, I think this is something that I can do. Like, this is something that I'm good at. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'll keep this. I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version. So
Cliff notes, give it all.
uh, back in 2006, I was working for an organization and was just not happy anymore. Being honest, I wasn't happy. I really wanted to venture out and start a nonprofit, and I decided to put in my 2 weeks notice a few weeks before I finished graduate school. And this is like one of the first testimonials of my life. If you don't mind, I'll kind of interject that here.
Please.
Um, so I had saved a little bit of money. I was going to quit this job. My then business partner and I were going to go off together and start this nonprofit. And, I had a mortgage. I bought my house at 22, so I started the business at like 25, 26. So I put my 2 weeks notice in and had my little, I think it was like $10,000, which is a lot of money for a 25-year-old.
Yes.
A lot of money for anybody nowadays.
Okay.
And I just want to quit my job. So put my notice in. My executive director was like, okay, something happened in my family, and I needed to give the vast majority of my $10,000 to a family member.
Ooh,
And I did it because that's who I am.
that
So
is so you.
I gave the money to the family member. And at this point, like anxious, like, okay, I done told this man I'm gonna quit. I'm finishing graduate school. I have nothing else. Um, what I'm gonna do, sis? What I'm gonna do? And I have a mortgage. I have real people bills, some grown people bills. So, after that, maybe not even just a few days, the executive director calls me into his office. He's like, "Hey, I know you're finishing graduate school, but what do you think about keeping the elements of the job that you like and going to work solely from home and being a contractor?" And I was like, Jesus. Long story short, that year, I ended up going home, taking the part of the job that I loved, working fully at home as a contractor, and I made double the money I made the previous year. And that was kind of my first quantum leap. Um,
Wow, that's amazing.
and it was just, it's crazy. Like, I'm a big believer that God kind of shows himself to you over time.
Mm.
And that's one of the moments that I knew that God was in the midst of that, because literally there was no, and I have other stories, but literally there was no other way. So that's kind of how I started off.
Mm.
I went home with that one client. They were my first client. And
Mhm.
then I went on, I did a handwritten note card, letter, thank you card campaign to several nonprofit organizations across the country. I brought in a couple to do kind of the same work I was doing for this other organization. And the rest is kind of history. That's where it started, right? So, yeah, me and my mom were handwriting notes.
Aw,
Handwritten, handwritten notes work,
come
even
on,
still.
Miss Tanya. Yeah.
Uh, so she helped me write those notes, and yeah, and that was the start of really, I had just those couple of clients at first, and my then business partner had a couple of smaller clients that she brought into the picture. Um, but yeah, that's how it all began, kind of.
Wow.
And I should back up. We quickly realized that we could not start a nonprofit without no money.
Yeah.
That was the original vision, right?
Mhm.
So, um, and I'll tell you more about how God has kind of brought me full circle back to nonprofit work.
Yes.
Last couple of years.
Yes, I want to hear about that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's to answer the first question. That's kind of how it all
Mhm.
began.
I love that. I love that it was like intentional but also accidental. It's so serendipitous, just kind of how it like fell into your lap in some ways. Like you put the seed out there, you had the intention of wanting to be on your own, having a plan. The plan fell through, but then it's like God's like, your plan may have fallen through, but my plan has been
Yeah.
right exactly where it needed to be this whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So tell me like about why woman led, because that's like in a lot of your verbiage. There's a lot of like emphasis on working with women led businesses. Like, why is that so important to you?
Yeah. So just to be clear, that's a hard decision to make. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not a decision I've made until like the last 2 or 3 years. I
Mm-hmm.
really want to say pandemic has kind of really had me be more confident in sitting in that seat. And it's an evolution of kind of sitting in that seat confidently. But at the end of the day, I was raised by women, right? I was raised by a single mother and a tribe, my great grandmother, my grandmother, my aunts, um, my older cousins, even. And I know women
Mm,
I understand them. And I also understand that they have a unique set of challenges when it comes to branding themselves, marketing themselves, being
mhm,
visible. Women don't typically want to beat on their chest and tell you how great they are.
mhm,
Um, we're not like our male counterparts. We kind of believe that I do great work and people should see it and just kind of come and, you know, that doesn't happen. So
mhm,
what I'm really doing is giving my clients and these brilliant, brilliant women permission to shine,
mm,
permission to say, hey, I have 20 years in this and I know this, this, and this, and I've raised this much money and I've done like to really kind of toot your own horn and blame it
mhm,
on me
mhm,
because we're really unable to and unwilling to, and then we deal with like the stuff in our heads when it comes to, oh, I can't get on camera because my face too fat, or I don't have any makeup on and my hair's not done, and like
mhm,
all the high school stuff. Then men
mhm.
don't care. They show up looking just as raggedy
They okay, they don't care.
at all, and they're less sometimes, some instances, and this is not a male bashing thing, but sometimes they're less qualified and they're not as unwilling to go after the thing. They're
Mm,
not as unwilling to put themselves out there.
mhm,
And, we just deal with a lot of insecurities and societal things that tell us that we're supposed to be seen and not heard, right?
mhm,
Um, so that's why women led. That's why, and I found that like at every level of woman, I've worked with women who are really, running organizations and making 6 and 7 figures. Every one of them,
mhm,
every one of them. Well, I
mhm.
don't want to come off like this, and I don't want to make it all about me, and I don't want to make people think I'm all that, and that I think I'm all that, or men don't be worried about that.
At all.
And I don't wanna sell myself. I don't wanna put my offer out there, and I don't wanna ask for money for my nonprofit or whatever the case may be. Um, there's specific challenges that we have that others don't, and I really wanna serve in the marketplace to help with those challenges and, um, be a partner in
Mhm,
those organizations forward.
mhm. It sounds like you kinda have 2 roles in your business. You give people strategy and a plan, but you also really empower women, the women that you work with, to show them and kinda give them a mirror to say, like, "This is who you are, this is what you've done," and kinda helping them to find clarity amidst all of that, like, negative self-talk and, like, that negative feedback loop. Um,
Mhm.
I'm interested to know kind of like what goes through your mind, like when you hear somebody's story or when you see somebody's issue. Because to me, I feel like it just comes so naturally. Like, y'all, I will be telling her like, "Hey, I'm thinking about blah blah blah," and she'll be like, "Well, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you?" I'm like, "Dang, I did not even think about it like that." So like, is it just like it pops into your head? Like, tell me about that. Like, how do you kind of conceptualize um what you're able to give to your clients? Like, how does that process look for you?
I think it goes back to superpower, right? I really if you come to me and tell me what you're doing, um, it's kind of God given. I'll start getting like, we can put this here, we can put this here. Like it'll come in like downloads almost
Mhm,
of um how can we really streamline things? How can we create brand messaging and really activate the 7 pillars that I work under to work to promote your brand, to create some lasting visibility? And it just comes, like it really does. The ideas just kind of start flowing.
mhm.
Um, I wish I had a more
That's
a more
okay.
distinct, way of saying it, but just through conversation, like, I love talking to people, I love hearing their stories. I've
Mhm,
been like that since I was a little girl,
mhm,
um, and through hearing the stories and the background of where people come from, it just kind of I can see a vision, and I could literally draw it
mhm,
on the wall.
mhm,
It becomes that kinda clear to me.
mhm.
Um, just yeah.
I feel that too. Like, I feel the visuality, that's not even a word, but I
Yeah,
feel
we're
like
going with it. It's
Yeah,
a
we're
word
going
now.
with it. It's a word. It's a word. I feel the visuality. Like I feel the image that you're trying to transmit, even just in our conversations when you've kind of helped me out and share things with me. So I love that. Um, and so I know that you have 7 pillars within your business, and her 7 pillars are strategic plan, brand stories, messaging, revenue growth, visibility, compelling content, and convert. How did you come up with these 7 pillars? Like,
Yeah, so I'm really thinking about a framework of the elements that it really requires to build a strategy for visibility, right? And this is kind of how it works together for me. Like having that strategic plan is baseline, it's foundational. I really don't do anything else, and it doesn't have to be some 100-page document you're not going to ever look at. And I know sometimes we hear strategic plan or any type of plan or strategy, we automatically feel like, oh my God, it's going to be such a daunting task. And I don't know how to do that. But really, a page or two of, or not even, of your objectives and your goals, the why of why we're doing this and what are we trying to accomplish
Mhm,
really helps to lay the framework for everything else. That determines our messaging. That
mhm,
determines how we show up in content. That determines what type of visibility we're looking for. That determines what our revenue model may look like. So that's very like foundational, and I
mhm,
would consider it like one of the most important elements.
mhm,
Um, but I just think about how all these pieces like really work together to
mhm,
create something can really move businesses and organizations forward.
mhm. So I mean, you kind of just said it, but my next question was like, which one do you think is the most, like, let's say people were like, okay, I don't know where to start, what I'm gonna do. Like which pillar do you feel like is deal breaker? It has to be in the sauce.
The strategy, it has to be in the sauce. We have to determine, get clear, right? So clear about personas, who we're talking to, why we're talking to them, why they need this service, what type of problems we're solving for the clients. Um, that's foundational. So I would say that strategic plan or strategy is really foundational, and
Mm-hmm.
everything else is an offshoot of that.
Kind of builds upon that. And so you kind of have mentioned like that you started off with a partner, but now you are CEO. Um, what was that process like, going from like from a partnership to now just like you being in the driver's seat? Like talk to us a little bit about like how it started and how it's going.
So, first of all, my former business partner, she and I have been friends for like, shoot, almost 20 years. So it's a no slander zone. And we are, really good friends still. We were together on Saturday having brunch for hours, drinking,
Yes.
um, and
Yeah.
having a good time. Look, I know how you look at me. We had a really good time. So um, I want to be really sensitive to how I talk about this, but we started out together. I brought some larger clients um to the organization. She really was doing a lot of design, a lot of web work, a lot of the implementation, to be honest with you, when we were business partners. I've always been the CEO. I've always been the face.
Mm-hmm.
That was our agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2017, I had my daughter, and a few months later, she left. And it
Mm-hmm.
was really a decision of like, I think for her, it was her choice to leave, that there really wasn't enough money to go around.
Mm-hmm.
Like there really, at that point, I wasn't selling. I was at home. I just had my first child.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotten married and had a stepson living with us, and I was just going through a lot of things personally
Transition.
and a lot of big transitions, and postpartum depression was a really good thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, she had to make a choice for herself or what she needed to do for her, and she decided to leave the business, and I really thank her for that, though.
Mm-hmm.
I, it took me a minute to get past the abandonment, and we've talked about this at
Mhm.
length,
Mhm.
um, because we were such good friends, and I was more mourning the friendship because, it made it
Mhm.
a little weird than,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But it really was freeing, and, I really tell people, really consider what you're doing when you
Mhm.
bring partners into the organization, especially if you're friends, because your
Mhm.
friendship is the most important thing. Um, so, when she left, I went through a depression.
Mhm.
I made the year she left. I just had a baby. I had been a six-figure earner. I think I brought home less than $30,000, 20 something thousand dollars that year with a
Wow.
brand new baby.
Wow.
Um, and I can remember crying to my husband at like a little local restaurant and saying, "Listen, I'm gonna have to get a job."
Mm.
And I can remember him reassuring me and saying, "Hey, I'll get another job. I'll do whatever that is needed so that, you can kind of see this through." And I think at that point, I guess I was at the 9 or 10 year mark in the business.
Mhm.
But, from there, I just started to rebuild brick by brick, networking a ton. And it really being, I'm an only child, I'm super independent. Like being the one is something I'm used to, and not having to check in with somebody else. And,
Mhm.
it was kind of freeing for me in a way too. Um, so I tell people like, yeah, it was crappy then, right? And it was hurtful then, and it was really a dark time for me, to be
Mhm.
honest with you.
Mhm.
Um, but on the other side of it, almost 7 years later, I rebuilt a business that is multiple six figures that was doing, quite frankly, far better than it was when we were together.
Mhm.
Um, so there are no mistakes, and it's
Mhm.
just a better overall situation for me. She
Mhm.
still supports me in the business. She
Mhm.
still works in the business. We're still super close.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the story of it. We all have to make decisions, and it's just what do we do next is kind of
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
thing.
It kind of sounds like like a setback to set you up, you
Oh, for
know,
sure.
and that whole season, having a baby and then, you know, losing your partner, like that's a huge transition. And I kind of want to go back to how you said, like, I made less than 30,000 with a new baby. Um, you sound so disappointed in yourself, but you had a new baby. You know, that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
huge, so it's
Huge.
the fact that you okay, sorry, I think this is motion activated. All
No
right.
worries.
All right. We're
Back.
we're back. Um, the fact that you even still brought money in, that year and lost a partner, that's huge, and I think like there's a lot that can be taken away from that and then continue to rebuild yourself and rebuild your business to bring you to this point. I think it's almost like you started a business and had a baby at the same time, you
For
know
sure. For
um
sure. And I tell people that, like, literally, I feel like I have, we're celebrating our sweet 16
mhm,
this year. But I feel like in many ways, this is a 5 or 6 year old business.
mhm,
And, I never looked at it that way because you're right. There is a great deal of disappointment to only bring home. The business made obviously a bit more, but I brought home,
mhm,
that amount, less than $30,000 that year. And there was a lot of disappointment. It's like, I got somebody to take care of now. I've been
mhm,
making all this good money before when I was single and right.
mhm,
And now I need this money. And, I
mhm,
had this new baby. It was just a lot going
mhm,
on at that time. Um, so yeah, I think that's a different way of thinking, about it because there was
mhm,
a lot of disappointment. There was a lot of shame,
mhm,
that came, at that time for me. And really, like, I was looking for jobs and
mhm,
also trying to figure out, I've been working for myself for 10 years. Who's gonna hire me? Because
mhm,
they gonna be able to tell me nothing, right? Um,
mhm,
and I don't want to go into nobody's office, and that was before remote work was really a thing.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely was a setback for a bigger setup.
Now, was this around the time that you filed for bankruptcy or
Absolutely is. And
okay.
it's the reason why I filed for bankruptcy.
Mm.
So, and there's a lot of shame there too, and that's not something that I've shared publicly. So this is
Well,
the
this is
first
the
time.
first. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
honestly meant
girl.
to
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
you before I
It's
hit
fine.
record. Is that
No, no
okay?
big deal. It's no big deal. It's a part of the story. But there was a lot of shame, like I'm not a girl who can't pay her bills.
Mm,
So, there was a lot that came with that, but it was necessary
mm.
for where I was at the moment. Um, but yeah,
And now here you are.
here I am, girl.
Yeah, traveling the world. She just got back from Paris this summer, guys. So don't let the modesty fool you, okay?
Yeah, I just got back from Paris and Italy this summer, and I was having a conversation with my former business partner and my college best friend this weekend about. I also used to be a girl who was afraid of everything, who was afraid
Mm,
to travel.
mm-hmm,
I would not travel. And talking to them about like how much traveling I did this summer and how
mm-hmm,
much traveling I've done in the last few years, just in general. Um, so it's amazing how we evolve, we change, and um, yeah, it's just so interesting. And the people that knew me 20 years ago, I'm like, girl, I can't believe you going where, you doing what?
yes.
But that was not my thing. I was just like a homebody. I was kind of
Mm-hmm,
scared of my own shadow and kind of coming out of that fear and
mm-hmm,
really, really life
mm-hmm.
now is much different.
Yeah. I feel like knowing you at this juncture, I would have never I would have never thought that you had such a past, but kind of listening to your past and seeing your present, it's like in some ways you did for yourself what you do for your clients, that empowerment piece, because you're so empowered now. Even like I look at the photo shoots that you do, it's like your personality just shines right through. And I feel like, I took it for granted. Like this is, Tashana, this is who she is. This is what she does. But hearing your story, it's like you had to do work to get to that point, and I think that that's huge. Like, what do you feel like were the practices that you did to empower yourself? Because I'm hearing it in the conversation. You're not saying it, but I'm
Yeah.
hearing it.
Because I never like, through conversation, this is why I love conversation, that's being revealed. That's not necessarily how I see it, but you're absolutely right. Like I've been all along, we're our first clients, right? So been doing little by little for myself the things that I do for other people. And a couple of things were really integral in making that shift. The first one, prayer,
Mm,
like prayer, meditation,
yes.
um, reflection. And the second is coaching. I
Mm,
have had some really good coaches, and
mhm,
I have been okay with letting each teacher, coach,
mhm,
prepare me for the next.
mm,
And, I had, in therapy, girl, therapy is real too. And making sure that we're getting the help that we need to move past those points where we get stuck.
mhm,
And because we can get lost in the story, um, and have one reason that we're telling people that we're not showing up, but have another much deeper reason for
mhm,
why we're not showing up. So those have really been the catalysts that have
mhm.
helped me move forward.
Yeah. I love that because I feel like my motto in a lot of ways is like the best coaches have coaches. I
Oh,
think
for sure.
sometimes, like, if you're not in this realm and you're like, well, you're a coach and you have a coach, wait a minute. Do you not know what you're doing? It's like, actually, I know what I'm doing. So I have a coach so I can improve. You need to be concerned about working with a coach who has never been coached. Would
Sure.
that would concern me more so than somebody who's actively working with the coach to better themselves. So, I love what you said, just kind of letting each teacher, letting each coach prepare you for the next one that's coming after. Yeah.
Because each person teaches us something different, right? I've had coaches that walked me through some really um dark things from childhood and like other things that in therapy that's walking me through that. And my first coach was more like a Christian life coach, to be
Mhm.
honest. honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or I went into even business coaching, like that would, and I've had life coaches since then. So it's not all about just business coaching. It's also about you, the human.
Mm-hmm.
It starts there, like you're a whole person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and how the things that are determining your actions and how you show up in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
it's huge.
I love that. So let's say there's somebody listening who is just starting a business, they just starting, or somebody who even just has an idea for starting. What would you say should be the first thing that they should do to get this business off the ground?
I would say to really do some deep soul searching. I'm a prayer girl, I'm a meditation
Yeah.
girl, whatever your mechanism is, to determine your why. Because I feel like everybody's a business owner now,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's for ego's sake. So be really clear, and the social media landscape makes it look so sexy to be an entrepreneur. Girl, ain't nothing sexy about this. Okay.
Nothing. Nothing.
So do some deep soul searching and really figure out why you want to do this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then ask yourself why again. And then ask yourself why again. And keep questioning yourself about like, what are you doing? And what's
Mm-hmm.
your motivation?
Mm-hmm.
Is it so you can put a moniker up and take some cute pictures and make people think that you got some money and you don't? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's become in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of circles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just do that deep soul searching and make sure that it's not about ego, but it's really about, freedom for yourself, maybe, or what you're bringing to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And also make sure you have an emergency fund. Don't quit your job and ain't got nowhere to pay your bills.
Don't be like me.
And and God'll take care of you because I mean, don't be like me. I didn't look, I didn't either. Like I'm talking to myself. This is in hindsight, right? Um, but I would say, like, first of all, this is kind of like two sides to this. Save some money, but
Mm-hmm.
don't wait forever because you're trying to save money. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you decide what that amount is, if it's whatever it is that your monthly expense is, and stop there.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you'll keep pushing out. I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more. I need a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. But make sure you have something.
Yeah.
I mean, just something.
Save yourself the stress.
I mean, because it's stressful. You know that. Um, and yeah. And even when you do think you're doing the right thing, like I thought I was doing the right thing
Mm-hmm.
by stacking this little bit of money,
Mm-hmm.
life happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no shame in taking a part-time job or doing whatever you need to do
Mm-hmm.
to build your business, while not necessarily working full time. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so with going back to that, somebody starting a business for the
mm,
first time, if they're like, okay, I've asked myself why several times,
yes,
and I'm still hearing this call, um,
yeah,
and they're getting their message together and they're branding, and they're putting their messages out. Like, why? Because I know that I've heard you say this before, but like, why do you feel like that messaging is so important to brands, new brands, old brands, like to establishing yourself as a brand?
right. So branding is literally the personality of your business, right? It is how you move in the world as an organization, or even a personal brand, right? And when I talk about branding, I'm not talking about necessarily the visual components.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about what you stand for. What are your values?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you want to make people feel? What type of
Mm-hmm.
service are you providing? That's what branding is. What do people say when you're not in the room?
Mm.
So that's true branding. I just want to make that distinction.
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes people get really caught up in the visual identity, and I love a pretty thing. Let me just tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I love pretty things, but they miss that part. And when you do the strategy and you do that brand archetype and that persona work and like their true branding, that from that you get your story and you get your messaging, that those components kind of come out of it because you can, but it's harder start to build messaging and brand stories when you don't know how you want people to feel.
Mm,
right? You
mhm,
don't know the impact you're trying to have. So we talked
mm,
about these building blocks, right?
mm,
Um, so it makes it difficult. Like I was working on some messaging stuff for a particular client and they hadn't did brand archetype work. And that's not included in our package,
mhm,
but I need it because I don't know how you want to show up. So
mhm,
what's the voice and tone and the overall essence,
the
if you will,
zhuzh.
the essence of this work if I don't know that. So I took them through some quick exercises to kind of get what we needed. But that's incredibly important because the messaging story builds connection and
Mm,
community.
mhm,
And people hear our stories, the stories that you and I've shared over time, just, in training or whatever, and knowing each other. That's what's built our connection, right?
mhm,
And you're doing the same thing in digital spaces and networking opportunities in person and online. Like you're doing those, that's what you're doing. That's why story
mhm,
matters. How
mm,
are we building stories that people can connect to? And how are we building community?
mhm,
Um, and that's how we get clients. That's how we get brand advocates, as I
mhm,
call them, people that may not be able to do business with us, but
mhm,
they're championing our causes. Say, hey, do you know about Cash? Because
mhm,
I haven't worked with her one on one, but I heard this and I saw this testimony. Like,
mhm,
people that are
mhm,
rooting for you
mhm,
anyway. So
mhm.
that's really important.
So what if somebody's listening and they're like, I don't know how to share my story. I have no idea how to tell people who I am and tell people what I'm about. Like what would you say to them?
Call me, girl. I help you. Um, but
Yes.
really it's sitting down and, kind of thinking through and typically you need somebody, not just a shameless plug,
Mhm.
but in our own minds, there's things we just don't think of.
Mhm.
We don't typically think of like, why did you start? Who are you trying to help? Why are you
Mhm.
trying to help them? Like asking ourselves those deep questions and being able to further dig. I'm a digger.
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah.
ask you a question and be like, "Oh, okay." And then what had happened?
Mhm.
Like, you
Yeah.
have to really go past the surface question and get in there to begin to uncover some of those stories. And there's things, quite frankly, that we don't think about.
Mhm.
Think about the stories that I've told you today. If I'm not intentional to write them down and
Mhm.
get them out of me and share them in video or, written form or however, then they're just in here in my head
Mhm.
and they're not outside of me building connection
Right.
and connecting with my ideal clients, right?
Mm. Mm. I love that. So good. So good. So good. So tell me about like a challenge in your business post, I guess, severing ties with your partner
Yeah.
in the last 5 or 6 years. Tell me about a challenge that you had within your business and how you overcame it.
I think that as you're trying to scale, that's been a challenge that I've had, like making sure that the right systems and processes are in place and that
Mhm.
they're communicated effectively to team. Like I'm literally used to working alone with me, my former business partner, and maybe an assistant, or just me and an assistant,
Mm.
virtual VA.
Mhm.
So for me, it's been like communicating the way that um, our special way of doing things, like the way that
Mhm.
I want things to be done and
Mhm.
creating systems and processes around that. Like that's
Mm.
a lot lives in my head.
Mhm.
So that's been something that's been an ongoing challenge and to really instill your values into your team
Mhm.
and so, make sure that they understand why we're here and
Mhm.
what we do and that
Mhm.
everybody is holding that same spirit and
Mhm.
essence
Mhm.
within the organization. It's a
Mhm.
challenge to try to grow.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like I struggle with that too. Like getting things out of my head and to other people and communicating my vision to a team. Um, I think that's like definitely probably been the biggest challenge when it comes to scaling is being able to share, your vision with somebody else. And I think you probably don't give yourself as much credit as you should, because you have had a team and you do have people, and it may not be how you envision it going, but you probably delegate better than you realize that you do, because it's brought you to this juncture. So, um,
I think that.
yeah. I kind of want to like switch gears just a little bit and talk about your morning routine because I've been inspired. So I feel like Tashana is not giving herself as much credit as she should. She's being
Never do. Never
so
do.
modest.
I'm not trying to.
But she's done so much work in the affirmations department, the meditation department. She shared so many books with me personally that have enriched my life. Quantum leap strategy, um, write it down and make it happen. And there was a third one that you shared with me that I can't remember the title of it right now.
The big leap is a big one for me.
The big leap, yeah. And you employ a lot of those practices. Like she and I
Sure.
train in the mornings, and she will be like, "Yep, I did my morning routine today. I said my affirmations. I wrote down my vision." Like, okay, girl, like you doing the most in the morning. And yeah, share your morning routine with our listeners so they can kind of get some of that juice.
Yeah. So I guess I'm always striving for perfection, which is non-existent. So that's what you hear in me, like not giving myself credit. But I'm like, it's not perfect. I don't be doing it right every day.
But you're
But
doing.
typically, but I'm trying, Lord. I'm trying every day. So typically I'm up about around 5:30ish each morning, 5:15, 5:30. And I typically go into listening to pre-recorded affirmations and they're in my voice.
Mm,
I've recorded my affirmations in my voice. Um, I typically do some type of meditation or tapping, and I write in my gratitude journal 10 things that I'm grateful for every single day. I believe gratitude opens the portal to all things good
mhm.
and great. Um, and then I write out my goal statement. And my goal statement is really like, what am I trying to achieve, right? And I write that statement, whatever it is, several times. And I have an affirmation that you actually shared with me a
Wow.
few weeks ago that I handwrite as well. Writing goals, writing the vision. That's my favorite scripture, Habakkuk 2:2, about writing the vision upon tablets. So whatever is in my head or that I'm looking to hold in my hand, I'm writing down. Um, and that has worked for me for years. I could tell you another story about that, but I don't know
Tell
how much.
it. Tell it. Tell it.
Okay,
Tell it. We got some time.
so when I turned 21, my mother bought me the book that Cash is mentioning. It's called Write It Down, Make It Happen by Henrietta Clauser, I believe her last name is. And I was 21 years old. I was finishing up my last semester in college. And I just started to write like crazy audacious dreams, right?
Mm.
Um, and one of which there's a couple. So one of which I wanted to marry a man that has my husband's name. I will not name him. Um, and I wanted to buy a house, 21 years old, two part-time jobs. And I wanted to buy a brand new car. And long story short, through the power of like really writing the vision and holding it, Oprah says, having a vision and holding the things you want with a healthy detachment. So
Mm.
I wrote those things down. I probably wrote them several times over the course of, the next several months. And when I tell you, I graduated at 22 in December of '04 from undergrad. And that same month, I bought a house.
Wow.
I got that car.
Yes.
And many years later, I married a man with that name.
Wow.
Wasn't the same man, but I married a man with that name
Mm.
because I had written it so much and
Wow.
it was made manifest. And I'm telling you, it works. Like,
That's beautiful.
and you can do it. Like, I write it like a grocery list. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted this
Mm-hmm.
MacBook that I'm on right now,
Mm-hmm.
that I halfway know how to use. And I wrote it on a list maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. And I wanted to go on like a family vacation. I wanted to rent out a beach house. Like I just write the things that I want. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get new stuff, new appliances for my kitchen. I wanted to get my house painted.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever. Like they don't have to be big things. I
Mm-hmm.
want to buy a new shirt. I need to buy new rugs. Like I write them on a list and I'm just asking God, I'm asking universe for those things. And I've gotten them. I
Yeah.
haven't went to buy the rugs, but I can buy the rugs. But
Yes.
there was a time like my husband bought me this computer and it literally It was something I wrote down.
Mm. Wow.
And, I continuously do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be in the practice of asking for what you want.
Mm.
Asking you shall receive, knock and the door shall be open. So
Yes.
sometimes we don't even want to ask for things.
Mm.
We're scared to ask because our hearts have been broken so many times.
Mm-hmm.
But have the courage to ask again.
Yes, I love that. I kind of want to go back to your morning routine when you said
Yeah.
you write down your vision.
Yeah.
So is this your vision for your life, your vision for your day? And then when you write it in the mornings, are you writing like a new paragraph or new text, or is it like the same thing each day that you write down, if
I
that
write
makes
it every single day. So when I first started making money in the business, it's one of the things that one of my coaches from a couple years ago taught me. Um, so it's the same thing, and it's kind of starts with like I'm so happy and grateful now that
mm-hmm,
whatever that now that is for you.
mm-hmm,
When I coach people, I'm telling them typically that now that is um, a financial number
mm-hmm,
or in your business. It's a feeling.
mm-hmm,
It's some type of abundance you're trying to attract to your life. And I had another coach who trained me that abundance is simply feeling good,
mm,
right? And we always tie it to money, but sometimes it's
mm-hmm,
feeling good in our body. Sometimes it's feeling good in our heart.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's getting outdoors and letting the sun shine on you. Like, so whatever that thing is for you, I'm so happy and grateful now that,
Mm,
right? And I write that statement every day. Mine's kind of long because I've kind of included a personal thing
mm,
and a business thing into that one statement.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, that's a statement that I hold
mhm,
until I achieve it.
mm,
And what you'll notice is sometimes if the thing is not big enough, you won't hit it, or you'll hit it and you'll bounce back. So make
mm,
sure you're asking big, audacious, you know, um, goals or things like you're setting it. I tell people even a conservative and a stretch goal, because
mhm,
sometimes we're scared that we're not going to hit the number. And I'm not as concerned with that because God's kind of proven to me that, I can hit a number.
mm,
Um, so my number right now is like not the highest that I've ever made a month.
mhm,
It's like a place that I want to be consistently. So even that's in my statement, consistently with joy and ease,
mm.
right? Joy and ease is important to me and my
Okay.
soul.
We
So
don't
that's
want no
how my
stressful money.
goes. Exactly. All money is not good money. So, and I write the same thing every day. And I'm
Mm,
writing it, 5 to 10 times a day,
okay.
typically.
So you're just so I'm clear. So your morning routine, you
Sure.
wake up, you
Hmm.
say your affirmations, you tap, you
Hmm.
meditate, you write your vision,
I don't
and
have to do all this all in the same day. Like some days
but
I don't. Today was a good day. I did all of it.
mm-hmm,
But some days I do one or the other.
mm-hmm. That's okay. That is
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I feel like it's so, I don't know, it's encouraging because I feel like you can start with one part of that and have
Absolutely.
a huge, awakening in your life just from
Huge
doing one of
shift.
those things.
And
Yeah.
I also pull a card from your deck, your affirmation deck. And
Yay.
I just started this morning, something I've been avoiding for years. Don't ask me why. I just started doing mirror work this morning. And what
Mm,
I mean by mirror work is saying the affirmations in the mirror and looking
mhm,
myself in the eyeballs and
mhm,
saying the affirmations. I pulled two of your cards today and I did those affirmations, and I have some other affirmations that I did in the mirror. So, even if you just start there in gratitude,
mhm,
don't do nothing else. Like, just pick one or two things because it can be overwhelming when you try to do everything Tashana do or everything Cash does.
mhm,
Um, so I try to get up early, and sometimes like last week, I feel like Holy Spirit was waking me up at like 3 or 4 every day last week. So I could
mhm,
get more things in.
mhm.
Um, and days I don't have to go to the gym, of course, I shower after I've done all that. I do wash my tail. And I do have to go to the gym. I don't wash my tail until after the gym. Uh,
Mhm,
but after I do, a few of those things, most of those things, I make my daughter breakfast.
mm,
Really important to be able to make her breakfast, to make her lunch.
mm.
Even on gym days, I be coming into you and I've been up for an hour or more making breakfast, getting my husband set up for her lunch and
Being a mom,
being a mama.
I
Um,
love the balance.
there is no balance. There is none.
That is the balance.
Just holding on. Just holding on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I have three final questions that I will end every interview with. So we're just gonna go to it. So, what is bringing you joy right now in this season?
What is bringing me joy in this season? So much. My family,
Mm,
really, the love in our home, my husband, my baby, my mom,
mm,
first and foremost, but the freedom of
mm,
that I get to live this life of abundance, right?
mm,
Even though
mm,
it doesn't look like I want it to look, it's still
mhm,
really a life of abundance,
mhm.
life of freedom. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's bringing me joy.
I love that. Okay, what are you celebrating in this season?
I'm celebrating how far I've come.
Yes.
And this conversation is really bringing things to my remembrance that I
Yeah.
haven't thought about in a long time. I'm celebrating 16 years in business this year, and I'm celebrating all year. It was in January, and I'm still talking about it.
Okay, keep celebrating.
Don't be talking about it. Like, don't at me.
Yes.
I'm celebrating that. Yeah, I'm celebrating my team, the evolution, and yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, last thing, what are you birthing into being in this season?
Oh, girl. I am birthing into being a more confident version of myself.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I'm birthing into being a person who isn't afraid to share their gifts with the world.
mm.
Yeah, I think that I'll stop there. I feel like there's some other things, but I really feel like that's the precipice of everything.
You can
Um,
share more because personally, I feel like you already are sharing your gifts with the world. And I feel like you are a super confident woman, in my opinion. I see you as like someone who exudes confidence, who
not
has
for real.
helped so many people. So I'm like, okay, you're birthing more of that. All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm birthing like vulnerability and like releasing people pleasing and like my clients, sometimes I have a fear of showing up as the fullness of myself, right?
Mm,
And I tell my clients that like I'm here to help shine a light and to help you share the fullness of yourself with the world. And I'm
mm,
going through that in my own right, you know. I just
mhm,
turned 41. I've had this business since I was what 25. So you go through evolutions and yeah,
mm,
there's some confidence and then other places there isn't. There
mhm,
life beats us all down. We all
mm,
have failures and comparisons, comparing ourselves to other people and then comparing ourselves to former versions of ourselves. And
mhm,
I've been dealing with a lot of that this year. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm really I'm birthing a new coaching program that I've been sitting on, quite
yeah,
honestly, for 6 years,
yes.
being afraid that it wasn't perfect. And
Mm,
I saw one of a friend of a friend put out that perfection is the gift of is the thief of good or something to that effect.
mm,
And many years ago, I wrote a blog about perfection paralysis and
mm,
uh, how trying to be perfect will cause you sometimes to do nothing. And
mhm,
I'm the chief operator of that of that bus. So
mm.
there's some things that I'm birthing that are going to come out however they come out, and you're going to
Yes.
know. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity to share more of myself with the world and
Mm,
continuing to come into more of a realization of my own power and purpose.
yes. I love that. I love that. This has been so good. I love hearing your story, and I feel like I always learn something new every time we talk. For the folks who are listening and they're like, I need Tashana as my coach, like decision has been made. How
Come
can they get
on.
in contact with you? Where can they find you? Please plug yourself.
Sure, sure, sure. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Grow with BBS. GROWWITHBBS, Beyond Business Solutions. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Tashana Thompson. Yeah, that's what my name is, Tashana Thompson. And you can find me, you can email me and connect with me that way, and I'll get you set up for a free marketing call at info@beyondsolutions.biz.
Lovely. Thank you again for agreeing to join us, for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, and for just being an inspiration. I know that I was uplifted from our conversation today. I'm sure our audience will be too. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's so much fun.